may have noticed that we live in a little bit of a polarized society right now. We live in a headline culture where we need to focus on very little concise pieces of information in order to make very big decisions about people, about information, about news, everything. Which is why I probably have 5 to 10 seconds left to convince you that you need to watch this video, which you do. What we're gonna talk about is how we can change and improve our relationships, our businesses, our communities, and ultimately the world by rethinking identity and the labels associated with that identity. My name is Patrick Menefee, and I'm here to help you level up your money, your mindset, and your mission in order to help you become the best possible version of yourself. Now, these videos drop every single Monday, so make sure you hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss out on a single episode. And if you want, I have a free newsletter that comes out every other week called the Menefee Monday Motivator. If you want to sign up for the free newsletter, click the link in the description. Now, when it comes to this identity, I want to talk about 3 different things here today. First is what our identity is and how we get it wrong. Second is why it's important and why we should even be talking about this in the first place. And third is what you can do about it and how we can change the way that we approach this in order to improve our relationships, our businesses, our communities in the world. Now let's start by talking about what identity is and how we get it wrong. Now, if you ask Merriam-Webster how it's defined, it is the distinguishing character or personality of an individual. What's ironic is if you Google what makes up an identity, even from psychologists and renowned people, there's all labels associated with it. Political affiliation, religious affiliation, race, sex, sexual orientation, all of these things that are labels. Where I think we get identity wrong is our identity isn't a label. Our identity isn't even a series of labels because the labels are representative of something much deeper. They're representative of who we truly are, but that's a category. The label puts us into a category. Who we are and who our true identity is based on our likes, our dislikes, our fears, what excites us, what drives us. A lot of times it's based on an interpretation of events that have happened in the past. It's based on our values and what we find to be important. That's what our identity is. But when we get it wrong, we focus on the labels. And here's why I think this is so important. We live in an incredibly complex society and we are incredibly complex individuals. We also are at a time of unprecedented information availability. We can get information from anywhere, which means that we need to be able to parse information very quickly. As a result, it's very easy to focus on headlines or labels because we know by association. With labels, I can quickly say, okay, I know what makes up a particular political affiliation, so therefore I know enough about you to make a judgment about you. Or I see a headline and I say, okay, well that headline tells me whether I have time to dive into that or not, because there's so many options available. The problem is that we are much more complex than the labels that we have or the headlines that we see. Society just doesn't work at that simple of a level. If you dig all the way down to the root, a lot of us have the exact same values. Even as entrepreneurs, part of the reason that I started Charlotte Entrepreneurs is because you walk into a normal event, you walk into a normal room of business people, and 2 industries that have no real ties together, they don't have a conversation because they don't really see how they can help each other out because of the label of their industry. But at their core, they're both entrepreneurs, they're both business owners, they both deal with the exact same shit, just in very different ways. When they focus on those, they can come together. And why I think this is so important is because when we just focus on the labels, we've got a lot of shit to disagree on. When we focus on our true identity, when we focus deeper into who we really are, we have a lot of stuff in common. And when we focus on the things that we have in common, we can move things forward and not get stuck in these ruts based simply on labels. Now that's easier said than done. So what do we do about this? The first thing that I would say is become aware of the tendency towards labels. When we become aware of it, we can make different decisions. When we become aware of it, we can pause. When we know that our immediate reaction typically is to make a snap decision based on the one piece, the one sliver of an identity that we see, whether that's in the business setting or in the personal world, we can make a change. We can do something differently. We can pause for a minute. And that leads to number 2. There's a wonderful Ted Lasso scene where he's playing darts with kind of the perennial bad guy from the show. And he refers to a Walt Whitman quote that is, be curious, not judgmental. There's another quote along the same lines that is, seek first to understand and then to be understood. When we stop and we're curious, that means that we ask questions. It means that we dig into the other person. We try to learn more. It's not about us. It's not about what we think and how we box that person in. It's about what that person is actually all about. When we dive in and we ask questions, we start to gain a new understanding. In the business world, we start asking questions and we start connecting on a personal level. We start connecting beyond our industry, beyond our business, beyond our title, and we create real connections. At Charlotte Entrepreneurs, we do this at our events by really truly asking different questions, and instead of introducing each other based on the idea of, or the question of, what do? We introduce ourselves based on deeper questions, like where are you going in life? Or what's your superpower? Or what terrifies you the most about your business? When we connect on those levels, we create brand new relationships that otherwise would never exist. Because when an esthetician talks to a real estate broker and they usually have nothing to talk about, they go their separate ways because they know everything they need to know about each other. But when they connect on their greatest fears, they connect on the entrepreneurial shit that they're all dealing with, now they can grow. We can take that into our personal lives as well. When you come across someone that has a belief that bothers you or that challenges you, stop. Be curious, not judgmental. Ask questions, figure out why they believe what they believe. When you can get down deeper and you build a relationship with them at their core, you may not change their belief, they may not change your belief, but you understand them. And everything changes when we start to understand each other a little bit differently. So I strongly, deeply encourage you to try to put this into practice in some way, shape, or form in conversations that you have. Create that awareness, pause, be curious, not judgmental, and ask different questions. Because what can come from that, the relationships that can come from that, the growth that can come from that, both personally, in your business, and in society, is huge. And it's very, very, very much needed right now. So if this is helpful to you, I hope you will hit the subscribe button, come back next week, see us again, subscribe to the newsletter, and I will see you in a week.